It's Dakota, and today we're going to be going over a sweet combo deck that is in Modern that really interacts in a different way and does something that's really unique and something that we're not really seeing right now in the format in a way to like abuse Urza and Emry and things like that. But before we really break down Artifact Breach combo for Modern, make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel to get more updates and things like that and different deck techs across Modern, Pioneer, and Standard every week, along with some other fun discussion videos whenever I think some points that really need to be brought up to get brought up and things like that. But without further delay, let's get into this deck tech. So Artifact Breach refers to Underworld Breach, a new card from Theros Beyond Death that says each non-land card in your graveyard has escape. Its escape cost is equal to the card's converted mana cost plus exile 3 other cards from your graveyard. And at the beginning of your end step, you sacrifice Underworld Breach. The idea is that once you play Underworld Breach, it's never going to get sacrificed at the end of turn because you're just going to win the game. So basically, you have like these cantrips like Mishra's Bauble, you have Mox Ambers, and like Astrolabes and things like that. And with these free spells, you're able to play with Grinding Station out and on the battlefield. You're able to tap it, sacrifice an artifact, probably one of these essentially 0 mana artifacts, and then you put the top 3 cards of your graveyard or of your library into your graveyard, and then whenever an artifact comes into play, you untap Grinding Station. And that's where like the combo is with Underworld Breach, Grinding Station, and then a 0 mana artifact, is that you can, in theory, just mill yourself out because you are being able to cast a spell with Underworld Breach by exiling 3 cards. Grinding Station mills exactly 3 cards. So while you're not adding any additional cards to the graveyard, you are, in theory, giving yourself enough cards in your graveyard to be able to cast your spells over and over again. Grinding Station untapping because you're playing an artifact from your graveyard. And to then eventually get you to your win condition, which is a Thassa's Oracle. That you can essentially just start netting mana with Mox Amber after getting to play an Urza or an Emry, Lurker of the Loch. And that's essentially what you're trying to set up with the deck, is a Thassa's Oracle kill by setting up Underworld Breach, Grinding Station, 0 mana artifact. So some other things that you can actually do in this deck that are kind of neat. Very Time Raveler that makes it so your opponents really can't interact with you at all. Just really good. Makes like your Thought Seizes that you can play at instant speed, which really isn't like much of anything because the rest of the deck can play at like instant speed in a pseudo kind of way. But still really good. Draws you a card, bouncing your like opponent's permanent or bouncing like an Astrolabe or something like that, and being able to draw cards, reset and engineer explosives, things like that. Urza is just a really good value card, like playing all these like random artifacts and things like that. Like you can generate a ton of mana and cast like 1 or 2 extra spells with Urza, essentially drawing 1 or 2 cards, things like that. Plus you make a giant construct, which can also be like a finisher if you're not able to combo with Underworld Breach. Emry is just a good value engine because she puts cards in your graveyard, able to cast cards from your artifact card from your graveyard, and she gets cheaper the more like cheap artifacts and stuff like that you play. Cryptic Command, because I believe that this deck also plays the Mystic Sanctuary, which you can just Cryptic Lock your opponent out of the game and things like that, which has proven to be very powerful and being a very viable strategy in Modern. One of Archmage's Charm. Modal counterspells are really good. That's why Cryptic Command is played in this format, even though it's constantly remarked as being too slow. But Charm lets you just steal a non-land permanent with converted mana cost 1 or less, can draw you 2 cards, or counter a spell in whatever spot you really needed to play. Again, like these 0 and 1 mana artifacts, Astrolabe fixes mana, Mox Amber sometimes taps for mana. Mishra's Bauble draws you extra cards, gets you some information. Engineered Explosives can clean up the board against those aggressive decks because that's all we really want is time to set up. Some blue fetch lands to go get like Mystic Sanctuary and things like that. You have Hallowed Fountains, some snow-covered lands to be able to cast your Astrolabes, water your Steam Vents of the like, so you can cast some of your black and 1 red spell. Hall of Heliod's Generosity puts puts an enchantment from your graveyard on top of your library, to which if you just keep milling with like grinding station and things like that, you can just or with Emry, you can just put the Underworld Breach on top with little to no cost to you, which is also means you could play Teferi Time Raveler in your mana base, since you are supporting a white card, or pseudo white card essentially. In the sideboard, Ceremonious Rejection, you kind of get hosed by Chalice of the Void a lot. Chalice on 1 or Chalice on 0 like just stops your combo, and this just kind of gives you some interaction against like turn 1 Chalice. Turn 1 Chalice for 0 or Chalice on 1 like while you're on the draw or something like that is going to be very hard for you to beat anyway, but there is some cards that you can bring into play, but this is just really good to have in case you can just stop Chalice on 1. Surgical, Dredge is like starting to run around again and things like that, and also this deck is being played a little bit, so like having Surgical Extraction for the mirror and then also the graveyard decks is a pretty nice thing to have. Aether Gust proving to be a better and better sideboard card every week. With Once Upon a Time being banned, I don't know how important this is, but uncounterable Titans are still really hard for any deck to deal with, so Aether Gust is able to actually solve that problem. Ashiok and Blood Moon are also really for like the Titan matchups. Ashiok lets them not be able to search the library, and then you can even eventually just mill them out with Ashiok, but most of the time she's just really good if she just stays on the battlefield. Blood Moon shuts off all of the lands. Granted, if they ever get rid of it and they are able to search up a ton of lands with Titan, it's pretty bad, but until then, like Blood Moon usually kind of hoses them, and with you trying to set up a combo and things like that, it could give you just enough time to go off and everything. Detention Sphere gets rid of problematic permanents. You know, it's a way to get rid of like chalices and things like that. So Sphere is just a really powerful like removal spell. Mystical Dispute, for like the blue counter decks, like it gives you a cheap counter spell that a lot of the times is a hard counter because your opponent's not really going to be able to pay the 3. Timely to buy you some more time, an extra Urza in the sideboard for the matchups that you want it, where you need like the extra value or maybe even like the extra 2 bodies, and Wear and Tear, another option of getting rid of like chalices and rest in pieces and things like that. And that's Artifact Breach for Modern. It's a really cool combo deck. Seems like it's a lot really complicated. I've known like a few people that have like picked it up and played it and just have a lot of fun playing it, but it is definitely a really hard deck and requires a lot of like format, like understanding the format, and a lot of like mastery as well of just playing like combo decks and stuff like this. But hopefully you guys enjoy this quick deck tech over Artifact Breach. I hope you guys stick around and subscribe to the YouTube channel to get more stuff, see more decks and things like that, like this. And it's going to be some exciting stuff. But yeah, go ahead and check out the deck, play for yourself, all that fun stuff, and I'll see you.